Hello, welcome to Lore Master's Lair. I'm your Lore Master, here today for the Errata of 2025, the video where we go over all the new information we got from official sources this year, and see what of it updates or contradicts or what have you the information of previous videos. Now this year we went through a lot. We had the beginning of the war between Chiliax and Andoran. We had the beginnings of Starfinder 2E. But what of it is actually changes stuff from videos in the past? And what of it did I wasn't able to catch with videos before when we actually knew about it? As per usual, this is a more loose video. I have just bullet points to remind me of stuff that happened. So, first of all, we got more information on how the recovery of Socrates is going. Got more information. Well, I actually should start by saying that most of the information we got was country-wise, whether it be from the Academy's book about what's happening specifically in Socrates, but also more information on Neurosian, which actually is another country that I've forgotten I haven't made a video about yet, so I'll worry about that next year. Or Adventure Paths, or we had the Shining Kingdoms book that was mostly stuff we knew about before in more detail, but also one we got more context in that I want to cover, and then of course Starfinder. But starting out, first we do have Socrates, which we are going through information on how it's recovering, getting some more information on some lost culture, and specifically one of the deities, which specifically giving us a storyteller subclass, but that's gameplay, not lore. Let's see. Then we had the Spore Wars, which is the one adventure path that changed information we had a bit, because we had well, first of all, Kionin is trying to make an alliance of all of those around the Eye of Dread in order to counter the Whispering Tyrant. Was based on his name a bit. But the important part that came from the Spore Wars is that Tree Razor actually was killed. So, canonically, not a dead god. So they can start reclaiming the poison parts of the Kionin domain. Have to see how that all turns out in the future and if it causes some kind of power vacuum. But the one big one from Galarian that I wanted to spend some time talking about is that we actually got more information on Galt. Now, Galt wasn't a country that we really got information of in 1E. I had to put together for the video I did right before the adventure that I remember kind of name, but anyway, the adventure that actually dealt with Galt politics and revealing what was behind the Final Blades. So, but here we actually get the tryst that the one who is currently in charge of the country, who is working to reform it, she actually was killed by a Final Blade, and she managed to get her soul back to her body, and the reason she wears her iconic tie ribbon is that she does have the scar from actually being killed by the execution. But also with the power vacuum left by the Grey Gardeners going away, now there's former souls that were trapped in the Final Blades or at a undead that aren't related to Final Blades, but it's called, it's related to Final Blades. Either way, undead are starting to mix into the culture of Galt, whether it be animated bodies or whether it's just the released spirits, which is part of the reason why the nation of Galt is trying to make negotiations with the nation of Geb, so that maybe there's some way to either find the undead of the nation someplace to actually have a place to call home, or whether it's to release the entrapped spirits still in Final Blades in a safe way. Night of Grey Death, that was the name of the adventure. So yeah, a lot of interesting things happen in Galt. Elsewhere in the Shining Kingdom, it's pretty much the same old, outside of the fact that Anna is preparing for war, but that's happening now. I'll probably have more about that war when next year's Errata, but let's get some actual adventure paths talking about first, so that we got more context. So that's Galarian, but we also got Starfinder 2e. We got a few books which give us some more information, but at the same time I was going through some of the planets throughout the years, so haven't had that much different from some of the more recent information I had. But we have three big ones. First, since my video on Octurne, the planet kind of exploded, and well, hatch is the appropriate word because of the newborn. Don't remember if I talked about us losing Octurne last year, so I'm just adding it here. Now it is pieces of shards of an now precious material called Octonite. But outside of that, nothing more about Octurne. One big planet there was a lot of planets affected by Octurne's awakening, the hatching of the newborn, psychically, but what the planet most affected physically was Traxia, which had the weird elliptical cycle that made it close and had a long summers, and then far away and had long winters. Well, it was the middle of a summer cycle when no, I was about to say it backwards. No, it was in the middle of winter when the hatching of the newborn pushed it into a new orbit that's now relatively close to the sun. So that's going to affect its overall ecosystem now that it's summer, and looking like from the orbits you have, it's going to be permanently summer, question mark. So yeah, we're going to have to see the long-term effects of that on the Traxian people. But just like we had Galt as a big thing on Galarian, off Galarian the big thing was information we got of Guilt of the Grave World, where Eox, not much change. We knew that the reason that Errata was destroyed was most likely from a super weapon. But the Dysphoria, we get more information on the two planets that make it up, Damiar and Iovo. Specifically, that Iovo was actually had saved. It was sent into the astral plane. It took some damage, but most of the asteroid belt is actually Damiar. Well, spoilers for Guild of the Grave World, you end up successfully, if your party is successful, bringing back Eovo to this side, or at least starting the process to do so. So we're going to have a new planet joining our solar system in the relatively near future. But mostly everything we had was location-wise. Nothing really updates for characters or politics and stuff like that. So I'm gonna call it here. Thank you everyone who have watched my videos. As per usual, this is mostly me talking to people who sparsely watch. Some videos pick up and get 30-ish views, while most of them sit at 0 for multiple weeks until someone decides to watch them for some reason. I do this for fun and for just actually talking to people when I don't do that a lot. So don't really care how well everything does. Don't really care about improving my setup, as I've said multiple times before. I've experimented with microphone stuff, but nothing really works. So either way, that's the end of 2025. So hopefully on tabletop and off tabletop, next year is going to be a better year, but we'll see. So take care.